So we'll cover two basic aspects. One, what's available in the PaaS platform itself, what we call as intelligent database. We continuously invest in things like security, performance, and availability. And also what's new in the various deployment options like managed instance, hyperscale, serverless, and VMs.
Okay.
So when it comes to intelligent database, one of the biggest things is we have revised our SLA. So we are industry leading for any cloud provider for SQL. So we are now 4 nines under 5. You can see the new SLA article on how to achieve this, depending on what deployment options you pick to achieve the best SLA.
So a couple of months ago, it was 99 point.
It was 4 nines.
Okay.
So now we have increased it to 4 nines under 5 through a lot of learnings and investments to make the service really available.
Fantastic.
And there's no other database in the industry which provides that level of SLA.
Great.
Tons of investments in security, which we will double click on, security is top of mind for many customers as they move to cloud. So we invest in the entire platform all the way from the platform to the surface area so that customers can run their databases securely and protect their data.
I see.
And finally, in the database engine, a lot of the things you will see in upcoming release of SQL Server 2019 is already in the cloud, being a cloud service, because we build first in the cloud before it comes to the box. So two things I want to call out are UTF-8 support, which has been a long-standing ask for customers. It's now available in Azure Database for in preview. And the other thing is for SQL graph databases, we have enabled shortest path. So this also opens quite a few scenarios for customers.
I see. So you're going to drill down to advanced threat protection, no?
Yes. So when it comes to threat protection, this is already there for Azure SQL Database, and we have spoken about this in the past. Now we are bringing the same experience to VMs also.
Okay.
So one of the things with this is customers want to be able to detect and configure threat detection. So things like brute force attack or logging in from unfamiliar location or SQL injection, which can cause things like data breach. So it's very critical that you stay on top of it. So the configuration experience and the dashboard experience is very similar to what we have with Azure SQL Database. You just set up OMS, log analytics, and then all the security events are sent there. And then you have a central dashboard in Azure Security Center where you can view all your alerts, you can take actions, it gives you remediation, etc. And also you can configure notifications for your alerts.
I see.
Yeah.
All right.
So continuing on with that, we have also now provided vulnerability assessment for Azure SQL VMs.
Yeah.
Think of this as your security best practice check. So when you deploy a new VM for SQL, you want to know if you have configured it securely. Like, for example, if you have given unprivileged access to somebody, or if permissions are not set correctly, or if you open certain ports, this will again look at all the settings and give you a scorecard. And then you can take actions to tighten your footprint so that your instance is running safely and securely.
Like a dashboard?
Yes. So this is a screenshot of how the dashboard looks. And it's the same dashboard you can use to manage all your services in Azure. SQL VM will also be part of this in addition to SQL Database and other services in Azure.
That's great.
And the next thing in security is private endpoint, or private link as we call. So Azure SQL Database, being a PaaS service, is it's over public internet. So a lot of customers are concerned about things like data exfiltration or connecting over internet. So with private link, now you can set up a private endpoint for your Azure SQL Database. And once you configure it, then you can tighten access to that. So you can basically turn off all public access. So you can lock down your service, uncheck the allow all Azure services, and then you can just allow certain application. Let's say you're running Management Studio in a VM. You can just set NSG rules to connect just to that private IP from there. It gives you very flexible configuration. You can connect using peered virtual networks. You can use ExpressRoute or VPN if you're coming from on-premises, or VNet to VNet gateway. So this way, you know that your access is completely controlled through a private connection, and there is no risk for data, or minimizes risk for data exfiltration.
Awesome.
Yep. Now, next set of investments I'll talk about is managed instance. We continue to invest and make this service better and better. It's been a GA service for more than a year now.
Yes.
And instead of going through every list, some of the things I want to call out here is we lowered the entry bar. So it's very easy for customers to get started with a very small size instance, like 2 core or 4 core. I'll show a quick demo. Your surface area is more compatible now, whether you want time zone or instance collisions, or if you're using other applications like SharePoint and Dynamics that are all certified to run. We expanded more regions where it's available. So if you're in any of the countries listed here, then you can now go and start using managed instance. And then
I know that was a very big request for you guys. So.
And then the security footprint, whether networking or connectivity, we are making it easier for customers to connect to a managed instance and set it up and get going very easily.
I see. So what are the benefits of deploying an instance pool versus like a standalone managed instance?
Yeah. So let me talk about what instance pools are. Instance pools, think of it as configuring a higher level resource where you can set how much compute and storage you want. Let's say you have 80 cores of compute that you decided you want. Then you can distribute this across many instances. Okay. So once you define the pool, we create the cluster upfront on the pool size you requested. And then once this cluster is ready, you can just go and deploy many instances of different sizes that we support today. As you can see in this slide, you can go all the way down to two vCore instances. Okay. So what this benefits is it helps you create the instances very quickly because the pool is already ready. So you can spin up and spin down instances very quickly. And then it also reduces your administration effort. Like now you have only fewer IP addresses to manage in your network. And then we can potentially allow more than 100 databases to support running in the pool. And so these are some of the benefits of instance pools versus standalone. It's basically improving the manageability experience for customers with a large number of instances on premises.
So I have a question for you, actually. So how would you use this, like, let's say you have variations happening during, let's say, retail scenario, right? Thanksgiving sale, lots of...
Yeah.
So how would you pre-provision and how would you adjust?
So managed instance provides dynamic scaling.
Yeah.
So once you have already pre-provisioned the pool, once you know your peak capacity, then even if you started with a very small instance, because you don't want to spin up all the resources, it's a matter of just scaling up and scaling down your compute and storage.
Okay.
And then in the background, we will do it as an online operation.
I see. So during Black Friday sale, for example, instance. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So let me quickly show you how to easily set up instance pool and some of the other options we talked about. So here, in the interest of time, I've already created an instance pool. So I've used PowerShell for the demo. As you can see here, I've defined some parameters like location, pool name, instance name, and the size that I want for my pool, how many cores I want, and storage. Once I have this template file, I can just call the template deployment using the script here, new Azure resource, and then it creates the pool. Once the pool is ready, you can go and add as many instances you want. As you can see in this example, I'm creating an instance called DBMI3 with a non-default time zone. The default time zone in Azure is UTC, as we all know, but customers have applications deployed all over the world in specific time zones hard-coded in their applications. So this is one of the top asks. And I've also enabled public endpoint so customers can connect without having to set up some VNet peering or VNet gateway, etc. And custom collation, this is another big ask. If you have customers outside English applications, if you want a different collation, you can set it up. After that, the rest of the parameters is what size of instance. So as soon as I run this, the instance creation gets started.
What tool do you use to run this normally?
So this is in PowerShell.
Okay.
So this is just a PowerShell command that you can run, and then it'll go and create the instance. Because the pool is already ready, this instance will be created in under 2 minutes.
Okay.
So as you can see in this dashboard, I have a pool here called SQL DB-MI pool, and it has 2 instances, as you can see here. And here you can also see what is my total pool size. I've created a pool size of 32 cores. I've used up 4 of these, as you can see, and same thing in storage and memory. Mm-hmm. And if I go to one of these instances, which I created with non-default settings, you can see if I go to the properties that I have non-default collation and time zone with public endpoint enabled. So it's very quick and easy to get started, and you can match your on-premise settings in managed instance now very easily. So the application compatibility will be a seamless experience.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Now you can have pools and your managed instances within that, custom settings per pool.
Right.
Per instance. Okay.
So the next one is really a cool innovation where it's called SQL Database Serverless. So all the other deployment options you have heard about, whether managed instance, hyperscale, etc., is provisioned compute. You define upfront how much compute you want, how much storage you want, etc., and you pay for that. But if you really don't use that much, then you still pay for it. So this is where serverless comes in. This is basically very useful for unpredictable workloads, whether it's dev test or even you asked about Black Friday, right?
Yeah.
Where you don't know how much you really need, like an e-commerce application or line of business applications. So here you actually pay for what you actually only use. Recently, we expanded the amount of compute up to 16 cores, and we continue to lower the auto pause delay. So auto pause delay is basically once there is no workload, we call it idle period. So in this case, if you set your idle period as 1 hour, if we detect that for 1 hour there was no workload, then we will just shut down the instance, so you don't pay for it. As an example, you can see how the bill looks here. On the top, it's the serverless bill. You can see on the left side that there is no usage. Correspondingly here, you see that there is no bill. The bill is 0.
That's awesome.
And you only pay when you actually, there is compute. Whereas in a provisioned compute case, the server is continuously used, so you're continuously getting billed. And you can see that the bill difference is really significantly reduced,
actually, yes.
6 cents versus 25, so 4 times cheaper.
Absolutely.
Right? Yep.
That's a nice visual representation.
Yep. So the last section I want to spend time is some of the new investments in Azure VM. So one of the biggest things we have done is we have launched what's a new resource provider just for SQL VMs. This basically helps customers improve their manageability experience. It also provides cost benefits where they can convert and apply AHUB. If they have Azure Hybrid Benefit, they can now convert their pay-as-you-go to AHUB, or if they have BYOL, they can apply AHUB.
Bring your own license.
Yes, and plus all the new features, manageability features we are investing in VMs are all tied to this resource provider. So any VMs which are spun up using our gallery images in the marketplace automatically comes with the resource provider, but a lot of customers bring their own VMs from on-premises. So these don't get the same benefits that the gallery images get. So, but don't worry, we now have a script where customers can go and register all the VMs, and they will get the same experience for their custom VMs as they will for the marketplace VMs. So where they can take care of license benefits, or they can improve their manageability experience for the VMs.
I see.
So let me quickly show how this works.
Yes.
So on the portal here, I have a custom VM, which I bought. But as you can see here in the VM, I only see that it's a Windows VM. I don't even know SQL is running here, right?
Yeah.
As a DBA, I'll need to track care of this.
Yeah.
So it's very hard. And you can see here, all the settings here allows me only configure the network disk security, but no SQL settings. But once I register the VM, which is very easy to do, you can just register using first register your subscription with this namespace, and then you can register your VM using the resource group, location, and what AHUB or whatever you want. Once you do that, then we will be able to track this as a SQL VM, as you can see in this example here. Here I registered in lightweight mode. Lightweight mode only allows me to configure the license settings, as you can see in the configure mode, where I can switch between pay-as-you-go and hybrid benefit, and also change my edition, because edition is tied to the image. So if I want to change my edition, I can do it now, and then also configure storage. But if you want the full manageability experience, we recommend registering with the full type. This actually installs an agent on the machine. So this will actually require a VM to start, so do it when there's downtime. The lightweight doesn't require restart. Once I do the full registration, I can see that now I have the full manageability experience, where I can set up security, patching, I can do maintenance windows, I can pick the schedule where I want the patching to happen. I can set up my own backups. It's a fully managed backup experience. I can configure my backup schedule and when I want my database backed up, etc. And then, so this gives you more PaaS-like benefits where your VM is, all the common administrative tasks can be easily managed. So these are some of the new enhancements that we spoke about. So I highly encourage customers to go ahead and register their VMs and take benefits of this.
Wow, thank you so much for all this great information.
Thank you.
Yep. And where can customers go to find more about all this? Is a single URL you have?
So you can just go to Azure SQL, go search for Azure SQL, and then we have a central landing page for all this.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for this information.
Thank you. Thanks for the time.